Hello, internet friends, and welcome to one of the last times you will see that intro. And yes, I'm going to keep saying it until it happens, because I know once it does, the internet comments and people will be like, where did all the intro go? It's gone. No, it's just things are changing slowly. This is the hardest part to update music, animaniacs, animations, all that stuff. My name is Adam K.K. Bay. Welcome to episode number 185 of Final Boss TV. Today is the Marksmanship Hunter show. And if you can read the title above, or you've read the YouTube description box or the podcast title, Azeroth is not here today because of IRL MMO stuff that came up. But every single spec does get a show now, so maybe we'll see him in the future for BM Hunters. I don't know. I think we'll be fine. We can. I prefaced my guests today. They have to meme just hard enough to keep it a hunter show, but not too hard to make it something that happens in Trueshot Lodge. So we'll blend it a little bit today, just a little bit. But before I get underway, there are some very special nerds and ladies out there that I have to give a huge thank you and extend my appreciation for supporting the show, the stream, and everything in between for. Thank you very much to my April patrons over on the show's Patreon page. Without them, Final Boss TV would be a much smaller production overall. And of course, if you like what I do here and what I make here on the stream, then there are more shows. There are quite literally more podcasts. You can go check those out over on the show's Patreon page. There is horribly belated birthday cards, the show notes, the extra podcasts themselves. I didn't know this. Apparently, I've been making content for a while. There are 277 patron-only posts. I have no idea. But if you like what you hear and you see here, then there's more over on the show's Patreon page. So go check that out down below. Links in the description box. Links are on Twitch, wherever it is. It's not your first rodeo on the internet. You know how to support things and internet creators if you want to. But there you go. But today's show, Marksman Hunter. We do have two fresh meat guests on the show today. One of you may know, one of you may not know, but it depends on where you hang out on the internet. But Moofz, welcome to the show, sir. Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Now, are you the one that is going to keep the show at least a little memey, or is that going to be our second guests?
I think Ghost is a better memer than I am.
But you're bringing in the really good beard today, because mine is garbage. So that's what you're here for, right?
Yeah, clean shaved and everything.
So wait, you said Ghost. So Ghosteld is our other guest today. Hello, sir. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me for the show.
Now
I'm gonna be trying to make some memes, but I'm not gonna. We will see what happens.
Well, the first thing I could bring up is you have a European-based accent, at least, so you and Azer have that going.
Yes, I'm from Belgium, from Europe, and I speak Dutch. And yeah, I'm from Belgium.
Oh wait, where's Azeroth from again? Besides the internet hole.
Azeroth is from Denmark.
There he is. Just had to make sure we have the distinction there, because I know that YouTube comments would be like, they're from the same place.
No. We're from a different place.
Yeah.
But we're right in the same guild, though. Yeah.
Well, yeah. How does that work, by the way? How does raiding with Azeroth work out? Just to throw him under the bus at the beginning of the show real quick, and then we'll just stop talking about him.
It's quite intimidating, but it's also motivating, I would say, because he's obviously like one of the best in the world, but it gives me motivation to become better and also like to improve. So yeah.
Okay. Sounds good to me. So I'm going to throw this back around to, I'm going to go right back to Ghost again. And let me know, what do you dabble in then in the World of Warcraft? Who the heck are you? And how long have you been dabbling in said things in the world of Warcraft? Like, how long do you played Hunter? What do you do in the community? What do you pick and choose and put together out there? What do you do, sir?
So I've been playing the game seriously since the start of Legion, since Emerald Nightmare, but I've played the game before in Wrath of the Lich King and Cataclysm, but I was very casual. But I started, I've always been a hunter, never played another spec.
Mhm.
And since Legion, I've been playing Marksmanship, and I've kind of evolved from. I was always very active in the Discord Trueshot Lodge, and lately I've also been kind of maintaining the APL for Simulation Craft. I mean, not really maintaining, but like kind of improving it and
Right.
making marksmanship and sometimes the other two specs better for Simcraft. So yeah, I'm also at the moment I'm moderating through Shot Lodge and I'm very active in Simulation Craft. So that's who I am.
So I always have to ask and make sure that you give shout outs, because if you're involved in that and the APL and priority list nonsense with Simulation Craft, who else works on all of this stuff? Because all I do, I'm in sort of the side community for enhancement shamans and feral druids and heavy TV hunters because of my connections with like Rusa and Purge and Word Up. And I see these giant posts of all this code. And I have no idea what that is. So who else does all that stuff with you guys? Make sure you give the shout outs to where they're due.
I would give a shout out to the guy who's currently active is Jay Easy. He maintains it. Like he does all the like the coding, and I just search for improvements and see what I can do. But he does all the coding. Someone else who was very active was Nuoheb, but I think he stopped the game, so he isn't very active anymore. And then there's also Putro, but he recently quit the game, so I'm not sure if he's gonna stay active on Simcraft or not. But Putro does some work for a WoW analyzer, so that's something.
There you go. Well, hopefully, maybe they come back for 8.2. I know that's going to be
maybe
a bit of the underpinning discussion on any of these spec shows leading up to 8.2, because we just had the recent PC Gamer interview with Ian Hazzikostas. They had the Q&A recently. We know there's more information that's trickling out. We know there's the encrypted build on the PTR right now, which is actually funny looking at like the data miners and seeing like the back end chatter of like, oh, a build's up, but it's encrypted. They're learning. So Blizzard's getting information up there for us soon. So PTR next couple of weeks, probably. We'll have to see. That Heart of Azeroth 2.0, the soft relaunch of BFA.
Another relaunch since Legion and then BFA and then now and then.
I mean, the raid's coming out in a week and a half, right? So it's got to be up pretty soon.
Yeah, the Crucible Storms. Well, the mini raid anyway. Just those two.
Right.
I imagine that Unat is going to be hilariously overtuned just to sort of hold over a little bit longer. But we'll see. He could die in a day. I don't know. We'll find out.
From what I've heard from other raid testers is that both of the fights are like Jaina level learning curve. So they're definitely will take some time to learn.
But back on to you, sir. Moofz, what do you do in this great wide world of Warcraft? What do you dabble in? How long have you been playing Hunter? And where would people know your name from on the internet?
So I started playing Hunter in WoD. I've been playing WoW since the Burning Crusade. I actually started out back then as a Resto Druid and slowly transitioned to DPS, and I actually mained a Warlock up until WoD. And then I sort of transitioned to Hunter. I really loved the HFC Hunter, and I sort of just became super involved at that point in Trueshot Lodge, and I did a little theory crafting. And I've personally never really I've dabbled in the APL stuff, but I've never been as good at it as Ghost or Jay-Z or any of them are now. I currently write the Marksmanship Hunter guide for Wowhead and the Beast Mastery Mythic Plus guide for Wowhead, which are both out right now. And then I also do a lot of the just hunter content. Bindak sort of has been doing a lot of it in the past, and I'm sort of taking over. He still does. He still has the Beast Mastery guide, obviously. I'm sort of taking over, all the pet articles they do, the Hunter Pet series that's been coming out, and all that jazz. So yeah, and that's sort of what I do for Hunter. And obviously, I'm in Trueshot Lodge, same as Ghost. And I've actually been sort of transitioning to more Mythic Plus oriented stuff as of late. But yeah, I mean, I still do a bunch of Hunter stuff. So yeah,
That is just to put your chops out there to make sure people know what you're talking about here. The part of the hard part about the next probably like month to month and a half of shows while the MDI is actually going on is because a lot of the guests that I would potentially bring on the show, which would be most problematic when I bring on, I'm trying to make a Prot Warrior show for next Sunday, but we'll see if I can get, because everyone's doing the MDI, right? So so the internet knows, what keys are you running right now, and why are you writing the Mythic Plus content and guide for Hunter right now, sir? Because I saw your armory, so but
well, on Raider, I'm like top 10 hunters in the world. I don't know. It honestly fluctuates. I think I've gone from like 6 to 8 to 10 to whatever. I'm around that area. But as far as MDI goes, I am trying to do the MDI. My team was actually disqualified for the first round, the first cup. Our demon hunter had a banned account that he forgot to tell us about, so that was fun. So we ended up replacing him, and so we're doing it this time around. And so we got a replacement, and so this MDI's time trials for the Western Cup are Toldagor, Temple, and what's the other one? Motherlode. And so we did our Toldagor last night. Oh wow, look at the barrage of subs you're getting.
Oh, Gorex here. Yep, I see that. It happens.
Yeah, so we did our Toldagor last night. We didn't do too great, but we're doing Motherlode and Temple probably later tonight. So yeah, that's what all of NA and EU's been doing the last 3 days, just no lifing it on Tournament Realm.
Yeah, basically. There's actually a funny tweet that I saw. I think JB posted out there that with the new time trial bracket coming up, no one is doing temples yet. Is that I don't know.
Temple?
Yeah,
okay, so
yeah.
Most of the affixes are not bad to deal with, but bolstering just people hate bolstering in the MDI world, and there's actually a meme copy paste going around about removing bolstering. But yeah, so for the West, our affixes for Temple are bolstering, Grievous, Fortified, and Reaping, and that is a nasty combination in Temple. You have all the stuff at the beginning. You have the little Crocodile pups that have really low HP, and then you have the big old Berserker dudes. And then you have, of course, in the middle, after the first boss, you have, those marksmanship that are in the cloud of dust. And so you have to kill the snakes before you even kill, the marksman. So he automatically gets bolstered. And then,
yep.
There's just so much mixed matched health in Temple. It's a very nasty affix, and it's not a very fun affix right now.
A lot of the mobs, and this comes down to, I guess I haven't seen the bolstering meme. I might need to post it in Discord so I can have the reference, but with the way that Mythic Plus is now and how dangerous certain mobs are in different dungeons, which is one of the leading things of like why Mythic Plus and BFA isn't as fun, is you have to really target certain mobs, and you really can't obviously do that with bolstering. So then you have to deal with either a stronger version of those crappy mobs that are very difficult to deal with, or you have to do the weird like kiting patterns and all the knockback, like druid toilets and all this kind of weird stuff. I don't know. I've seen and heard different things about how to deal with it, but
I just sent you the copy paste in Discord.
Oh
That's
gosh,
for the MDI.
Okay. Oh, it's like a conversation within. Okay. All right. Hasn't made it to the Photoshop realm yet. Gotcha. Gotcha. So, I guess the first bit we can bring up, and we'll kind of bounce between a few different topics as the show goes on here. And we will talk a little bit about BM and survival. Just hold your horses, okay? Every single spec gets a show a little bit. So the trials of the bow, the gun, and the crossbow. Marksman has had quite a fair shakedown every expansion over and over. And it's funny to see which specs over the course of the last like 3 or 4 expansions have gotten a lot of changes. And each expansion, Blizzard kind of seems like, well, certain specs need to be sort of reinvented every time, which sometimes helps, sometimes doesn't. So the function of how Marksman works, having a rocky start, issues with secondary stat scaling, or just being kind of weird. So where is your happy place thinking back to previous incarnations of marksmanship, and why did you enjoy that version compared to now? And if you have any like individual reasons of things you want to like bring back or get out of the spec currently, Ghost, I'm going to you on this first. So where's your happy place with Marksman?
So I started playing Marksman since start of Legion from Emerald Nightmare, and I think marksmanship was in a fairly decent place at the end of Legion, and also kind of in the middle during Nighthold and a bit of Tomb. But during Nighthold, there was this. Actually, I really liked it. It was built with a lot of cooler induction. You had the trinket, I forgot the name of, which reduced your major cooldown, and you got a tier set which also reduced Trueshot. What did you say, Moofz?
Convergence of Fate.
Yeah, Conversion of Fates. You had Conversion of Fates, you had the legendary boots, and you had the tier set which reduced your Trueshot to like a very short cooldown, which made the spec actually really fun and fast paced. And then the end of Legion, like completely at the end, you had like four different builds. Like you had like the normal single target build, but then you also had like a meme build, and then you had like a variation of the meme build, which made even like more fun and stuff, and like more brain dead, you could say. And you also had like sidewinders. That was also a really nice thing, because sidewinders gave the spec some cleave, which some spread out cleave, which made the spec actually really fun. And I think for me personally, it was the Nighthold build, because it featured a lot of cooldown induction, and like Trueshot had like 1 minute cooldown, maybe 50 seconds in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
And it made the spec so fast and so fun, and even in like Mythic Plus it was a really fun spec. Yeah,
that's the weird part. I test every expansion rather specifically. Every single spec gets like 2, I call them the passes. And I started doing this in Warlords, and then it really evolved in Legion and now into BFA. And that was the one part you brought up, the pacing and the how fast and fun in that regard that Marksman was. But obviously Blizzard wants marksmanship to be a much slower, more methodical spec, yes, considering that BM is constant and they can do everything they want while moving. Doesn't really matter. They have no cast times. And Marksman is the opposite. And
I sort of feel like they don't exactly know what they want from Marksman. They've changed it 2 times in expansion, the last 3 expansions. So yeah,
like even within BFA, it got a complete almost overhaul from start of Uldir to now. Like the start of Uldir, the spec was completely different. It all relied on like one talent, which made the spec like so RNG based. And then now it's completely different from Uldir. Now it's it kind of went back to like a cooler inductions spec. And then I don't know, Blizzard don't know exactly what they want for it. They kind of like to pick up things from old expansions and old patches, but they they don't know exactly what they want, what direction they want to go for.
So then where's your happy place with Marksman then, Moofz? Because you have a bit more in the past than Ghost, which is fine. That's why I went to Ghost first, because he dealt with his first big incarnation was Legion. So what do you think?
I sort of like a mixture of two different marksmanship. So back in WoD, marksman sucked up until like the HFC area. I mean, Hunter sort of had like in High Mall you played survival, and then BRF you played BM, and then HFC it was marksman, and I really liked the marksman HFC or HFC marksman era. It was they had a careful aim that was sort of how we have it now, priority damage. You had Chimera Shot back then, and it was very good single target. The AoE was okay, which is for AoE, I really liked the Legion marksman with Mark Shot, and as Ghost was saying, we had the meme build with the piercing shot and stuff like that, and I really liked that type of AoE. Um, I didn't mind the Legion single target, and I think a lot of people, which is why they ended up changing it, but a lot of people complained about vulnerable and having to,
Yep.
the timing of it and trying to weave in, aim shots and stuff like that. And a lot of people just did not like that and complained about it. I personally didn't mind it, but in AoE, Mark Shot was really fun in marking targets and stuff like that. And then the meme build and stuff, but yeah, so I would sort of combine Legion AoE with HFC single target. It would be my happy play.
Okay. I know that was the one thing that I know very specifically that I think I even named my second pass video for Marksmanship Hunter by saying the vulnerability window is gone, because that was a very interestingly contentious point where sometimes Blizzard makes this Colossus Smash judgment vulnerability window as a core part of the mechanics of the spec, and for certain ones it works okay. Like Arms Warrior still kind of has it, Retribution Paladin not as much but still kind of there. But it's funny to see which one of those types of window DPS specs stay and which ones get totally gutted and removed from because of feedback where people are like, it's okay, but meh.
I mean, vulnerable was okay, especially the higher end people that knew how to, change your lag tolerance and stuff like that. But for 90% of people who were playing Marksmanship Hunter, they had no idea, that half a second, affected your DPS so dramatically with vulnerable, and so yeah, it was just such a swing, and then. Not only the vulnerable at the time, but at that time it was also so crit reliant. And I remember, like, to the point that if you didn't get crits on your opener or something like that, it was just like, holy shit, this spec sucks. It was like, and then if you do get crits, it's like, holy shit, I'm a god, and you're like topping the meters, and the fluctuation was just so crazy back then.
Yeah. There's still a bit of that I think we have right now, but it's nowhere near as egregious.
Yeah, because back then you had, I don't remember, it was I don't remember which artifact trait it was, but you had crit compounding on crit, and so like if you had an ability that didn't crit, you're losing like 4 times as much crit damage and stuff like that, as opposed to now. I mean, you still have crits obviously, but it's not nearly as crucial if you don't crit.
Okay. The other big thing that did change going from last expansion to this one, which I will probably be the namesake of this episode here as this middle topic, is to pet is to hunter, but not Marksman Hunter. So, BM versus Marksman has always been this back and forth. And I like how you brought that up, that each tier, when we had the tier set bonuses, sort of determined which spec you would play. Kind of like how we, again, doing the pure DPS specs up first when we have 3 DPS specs for Rogue, Mage, Warlock, and then Hunter, is depending on which one ever is in like the hierarchy based on the current raid tier, or in this case, maybe what's different in Mythic Plus versus raids, which one gets picked. So why play a pretty much locked down turret spec in Marksmanship versus BM when they can do, again, practically everything while on the move? They have no cast times, super mobile. The pet does 75% of their damage, just hit kill command, forehead, right? while doing all that. So what does Marksman bring over BM? Is it a Azeroth combination that works better in Mythic Plus? Is it a better potential in raids, like the reverse execute mechanic you have? So I don't know which one of you wants to bring this to the forehead first, but I don't know. How do you decide which to play in the game right now?
At the moment, you could say that marksmanship brings more like controlled priority damage,
Sure.
and you could like BM also has that, but has a bit of that extra. You have like Trueshot is almost all of your damage, and you can actually control when you use your Trueshot, and it's also a bit shorter cooldown than it's the major cooldown of BM, so you can actually control it more. Also, careful aim. It's our execute talent, and it works on above 80% and below 20%. So I think MM is definitely a better execute class, and execute classes are more attractive for raid fights, I would say, because you won't kill the boss until she's 0 HP, and the most important part is like the last part of the fight. So execute is always more important. And I mean, for AoE you could change up the whole story. I would say BM is better, but that's mainly because of Azeroth raids at the moment. But for raid fights, I would say, yeah, MM has more priority damage, more burst damage, and yeah, that's sort of it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so before BM got buffed, Marksman was like hands down the better spec in raid. Since they got buffed, BM got buffed what 4 weeks ago now? Or
Yeah.
8.1.5. Honestly, you could go either way in raid. Marksman's still a little bit better because of the things Ghost said, priority target damage, execute, burst, etc. But being totally honest, the only reason Marksman started out better and is currently still the go-to spec is just because the raid caters to Marksman. Like Marksman still has a lot of flaws. Like you don't have two target cleave, you don't have AoE past 6 targets. Whereas BM has both of those, and BM is slightly more mobile, not that much more mobile. But if you think about the raid, everything is single target, right? And you have a couple ad spawns and like Gonk and um, what other fights like Stormwall Blockade, where you need that priority target damage and your Trueshot lines up really well. The few ad fights that we do have, Rastakhan, a little bit of Jaina, and then Opulence, right? Your Trueshot lines up perfectly with Opulence. You have 3 targets, which falls in Marksman's AoE range. But if there was a fight where there were, a council fight where 2 targets, 2 bosses were right next to each other, like Jadefire, for example, Marksman's actually awful on Jadefire. BM honestly isn't that much better, but fights like that where the fight just doesn't fall, within the AoE range or catered to Marksman, BM would probably be a little better just because of its mobility, and it has better defenses. It has, if there was an AoE fight, you'd probably pick BM, which is actually the case in Mythic Plus. The reason why BM is so much better, not so much better. Marksman is viable, but BM has better defenses. It has utility through Spearmend. You have a Purge, a Soothe. You have just so many different things as BM, whereas Marksman, you also have those things, but you have to whip out your pet. And as most people know, we have Lone Wolf, which, if you have a pet out, you lose 10% damage, and your pet only attacks one target. So there's a lot of things that Marksman, if you're going to not have a pet, you're losing all this utility and defenses and stuff like that. Whereas BM has that. And I think, like I said, the raid just really caters to Marksman. I don't think this upcoming raid, from what I've seen, I haven't actually done any raid testing, but the upcoming raid is very AoE and spread cleave and stuff like that. I don't think Marksman will be that much better than BM in that raid.
Yeah, the raid is very spread out, and BM and both MM are like they suck at spread. So like without sidewinders, MM is like actually like useless for spread out damage. I mean, we can take Barrage, but Barrage is such a garbage talent that we don't even try to talent it. Yeah.
So you play survival then in Crucible Storms?
I don't. Honestly, Hunter as a whole is not looking too bright for the next raid, Crucible of Storms. We'll see.
There's a lot of different little things you brought up there to pick out that I could get into a nitty gritty on all these different things, right? So the tail end of this discussion I wanted to bring up is one of the common mistakes that you hear about or read about that players make, either returning to or getting into or swapping from other hunter specs to marksman, and sort of what are the do's and don'ts that you would like to send out there or quell in the community. Now, Ghost, you do a lot of the Discord moderation, so I'm sure you've heard stories.
Yeah. I think a lot of people overthink how they should play the spec, and they should. I mean, the rotation is very simple. Like, it's just don't cap on your aim shot charges. Try to use rapid fire on cooldown. Try to use Trueshot at favorable moments in the fight where you don't need to interrupt your rotation. But a big problem is when people don't plan ahead, and what will happen is like they start casting aim shots. It's like a huge cast, 2.5 seconds, and suddenly mechanic hits. They have to interrupt their aim shot cast and then lose a lot of damage because they lost almost 2 seconds of their rotation, and then they have to recast the aim shot at the worst time. And while they are recasting, maybe their rapid fire comes off cooldown, and then they're even losing more rapid fire uptime and stuff. So people just have to plan ahead a bit, because it's not actually bad to like sit on your aim shot charges, because we have 2 charges of them, so you can actually like wait till they are recharging. And yeah, people should people should just look at their boss timers, and when they see like, oh, this mechanic is going to happen, I should move ahead, because movement is not a big problem for marksman. It's just about planning your movement. So you see, like, for example, Conclave, when you see the big bird is like circling around, what a lot of people do that are not familiar with the spec or not with the fight, they just keep doing their rotation, and suddenly the bird lands, and they see, oh, the bird is landed, I need to move. No, what you should have done is you should have pre-planned your movement and already went to the spot the bird was landing, because there's like you can see the ghost already landing, so you don't have to interrupt your aim shot, and then you can actually like save your aim shot for the moment the AoE is starting to happen in the circle. And a lot of people are like making mistakes when they don't know how the fights work, or they are not familiar with the spec. So it's better for people to like get comfortable and not overthink a lot of stuff. Just, it's almost like press everything on cooldown, don't waste your procs. And when people start overthinking stuff, then they start making mistakes and stuff. Yeah.
I wanted to bring up the other bit, because everyone keeps talking about Trueshot, and this is actually the one part that I wanted to ask specifically. So let me grab the tooltip real quick here, if I can.
Oh yeah.
Because this was changed or updated recently, and I didn't know if this was here we go, if this was good or bad, right? So the secondary stat scaling that I brought up in the previous topic. So Trueshot 2-minute cooldown now reduces the cooldown of aim shot and rapid fire by 60%, and causes aim shot to cast 50% faster for the next 15 seconds. It cuts the cast time in half, right?
Yes.
Right.
And the biggest problem I heard a lot that Marksman had, and talking about movement and pre-planning and knowing, because again, you have to turret pretty hard to cast. The jokes in chat earlier were, I would like MMOR if it didn't have a 30-minute cast time on aim shot. It really isn't that long though. is how haste interacts with your core ability. And obviously now Trueshot does, but is Trueshot in a better place? Was this the right move that Blizzard did to fix this ability? Moofz?
100%, yeah.
Oh, you both had it.
So before this change, 2 months ago, I don't remember how long they changed it, but basically Trueshot gave us a lot of haste and one charge of aim shot. Well, the haste in and of itself doesn't really help marksman that much. Like even now, even with Trueshot, haste is actually really bad for marksman outside of Trueshot.
Okay.
And so like you really want just like a bunch of mastery and crit and stuff outside of Trueshot. But then when you get to Trueshot, you want to pump as many aim shots as much as possible, as much as focus allows you to.
Right.
And so before, I think, I don't remember, it goes, correct me if I'm wrong, we were running sims and stuff with the old Trueshot, and we actually omitted Trueshot from the sims, like completely. So like he just didn't cast Trueshot, and it was like maybe 100 or 200 DPS less than, it was like such a non-beneficial cooldown, and it was a 3-minute cooldown at the time, right? And so you used it, twice a fight or something like that, and it just like literally did nothing for you. Whereas now we have, obviously cast more aim shots, and we also have back then we had unerring vision, but since it was a 3-minute cooldown, unerring vision wasn't really that good because you only benefited from the crit every 3 minutes. Well, now we have a talent called calling the shots, which we had before, but now that Trueshot's actually worth using, the talent plus Trueshot we get every minute 15 seconds, plus the Azerite trait, and we also have like in the rhythm and stuff like that. And so we actually have a lot going on during Trueshot. And so it's actually really good to use now, and yeah.
That was the one thing. So I thought I heard initially that it was not the right choice that Blizzard did what they did with Trueshot, but you both sound like it is the correct path, right? It values your major cooldown, because before it was, as you said, barely noticeable.
Well, there's one extra thing. When they redid Trueshot, they actually like, it's still kind of, I wouldn't say bugged, but when you compare the value on the tooltip to in-game, it's completely different. In-game, it gives way more reduction than the tooltip indicates, and normally the tooltip says like 60%, but it's in reality it's like, I don't know,
it's like 100. Yeah. So if it did what the tooltip said, aim shot would be a cooldown of like 8 seconds or something, right?
Yeah.
Where in reality, it's like a cooldown of like 4 or 5 seconds. I don't remember what it is exactly. And so it's actually almost double what the actual tooltip says. So if they actually let it go through as what the tooltip said, it actually wouldn't be that amazing of a cool.
I wonder. So Trueshot itself, just looking in the database, 12-second recharge before any haste, because haste will lower the actual recharge time of Trueshot. I mean, of aim shot, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So to get your charges back. However, what I'm wondering is if the Trueshot 60% cooldown reduction actually is applying to the 12-second base and not your hasted affected cooldown recharge. So that may be why it's
wonky. I think that works out with aim shot, but then I think rapid fire is like 250% reduction compared to
240.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah.
Like rapid fire becomes 5.7 second cooldown under Trueshot
from 20 seconds.
From 20 seconds, and that's nothing what the tooltip indicates.
Yeah, I think it should be 12 if it did what the tooltip indicated, if I'm not mistaken. But it's actually like a 6-second cooldown, what Ghost said.
Weird.
So it's like, so it's definitely better than what the tooltip indicates, which is why it's so good for us now, which is why we run calling the shots and stuff. But yeah, I mean, so like going back to what you were saying earlier about the movement of Marksman and Trueshot and stuff like, um, Trueshot is really the only time that you're a quote turret spec, right? Because
Okay.
but even during Trueshot, like you can still stutter step and stuff like that. You're not 100% limited to, standing still those 15 seconds. Like you still cast rapid fire twice during Trueshot, so you can still move during rapid fire. All your arcane shots that you cast during Trueshot, you can still stutter step. Um, I think if you're looking at the sim, you're only standing still about 20% of the time, I think, or something like that. And so Marksman's
Bit
a
more.
little
Yeah.
more, yeah, but I mean, it's still like very minuscule compared to a lot of other caster classes. Like, it's not obviously it's not BM. You don't have 100% movement. You can just move whenever you want. But Marksman is still, I think, one of the most mobile classes besides maybe like Fire Mage or something like that.
Okay. It's just a misnomer that I get out there. A lot of people say like, because you only have one-ish to two spells you have to hard cast. Whereas,
Well, I mean,
like, look at
the the misnomer comes from what Ghost was saying earlier, right?
okay.
Like we have aim shot, which is a 2 to 3 second cast depending on your haste,
Uh-huh.
and people feel that it's very turret reliant because of the aim shot. They feel that they have to cast the aim shot as soon as they have it and stuff like that. Or in reality, like Ghost was saying, we have two charges. They each have 12 seconds. You have a good 10 seconds before you absolutely have to cast that aim shot, and so a lot of people don't look at their timers and stuff like that and just do their normal rotation and think that they have to cast aim shot, whereas maybe there's a mechanic coming and casting another arcane shot and then moving and then casting the aim shot would be better than casting aim shot, interrupting your aim shot, moving, then casting your aim shot again. You lose a lot of DPS by doing that.
Okay. So
So it is, you definitely have to predict your movement.
now the other interesting sort of, I don't know, sticking point that has weaved its way into the previous conversations that we'll bring up right now. And if you want to bring in survival into this and BM to compare and contrast, by all means, I know there is a bit of a, well, I'm playing a hunter to play ranged, but survival is pretty good. It's pretty fun, but it's not whatever. Even though survival hunter can be almost all played at ranged and their major cooldown lets them play totally at ranged every 2 minutes or so, but is AoE. I know that chat brought it up a little bit earlier, and I'll bring it up now, is that AoE seems to be a little strange for marksmanship because of target limitations, caps, whatever you want to say. Different casters, different melee all have different parabolas where they work out in different AoE packs. And obviously right now in Mythic Plus, a big part of the game, reaping is AoE the dungeon, the affix. Every 20%, essentially. Unless you're playing Night Elves and you skip the entire event, the entire dungeon. But, so, where does Marksman Hunter AoE in their situation right now, and how does it work out, and why is it good, bad, ugly? I don't know where the separation here is, but is it awesome? Is it poor? Is it work? But I'll go back to you, Moofz, because you're the one doing the 20 plus keys right now. How does it feel?
It's not as bad as people think, honestly. People think that, oh, the 2 target cap, oh, the 6+ target cap, marksman is so shit. Like, just play BM. It's really not that bad. And yes, the 2 target cleave sucks. If you have a competent tank, they know that first of all, if you're pulling 2 mobs in a dungeon, like, what are you doing, right? Like, you should be pulling at least 3+ mobs with almost every pack. And so really that aspect of marksman isn't that bad. And the situations when they do arise, our single target is better than most. And so our single target is enough to suffice for the lack of 2 target, right? In that sense. As far as the 6+, a lot of people look at it in a vacuum and say, hey, we can't deal damage to those 6+ mobs. So like, reaping, no, you're never going to pull as much as an outlaw rogue or a demon hunter or whatever in reaping, right? That's just not your strength. Marksman's strength is consistent damage, right? And so when you have a 5 target or a 6 target mob, where, you know, an outlaw rogue has a 5 or 6 target a mob, you're going to be doing upwards of 100,000 damage to those 4 or 5 targets, whereas they're going to be sitting and waiting for their blade failure charges or something, you know. And so marksman is a lot more consistent over the entire dungeon, whether that it, you know, you're not going to be an outlaw rogue or whatever, and you're not going to burst up to 200 and reaping. Whereas, you know, their single target, for example, when they get to a boss, they're pulling barely 20k. Whereas marksman's single target on a boss, we have Trueshot up every minute. We're Trueshotting probably twice, maybe 3 times a boss on tyrannical, and we're pulling, you know, 27, 28k average while they're pulling 20k on bosses and stuff. And so it's really you know, we're more of a prolonged steady class, very bursty. Mid-range, like our mid-range is very good, but no, we're not gonna, you know, be pulling those huge AoE numbers like.
But I'm just gonna bring up the talent calculator here. Chat's freaking out because of your cat, but you have interesting talent choices for AoE though. I mean, I'm looking at volley and the new explosive shot and barrage.
Ghost, you wanna?
Yeah, like even volley and the, I think it's explosive shot on the
Explosive
same row.
shot. Yep, they're on the same row.
Yeah, like even volley and explosive shot, they would potentially do more damage on like 20 targets or like 10 targets. Careful aim is just too good to pass on. Like you lose so much single target damage because when you take volley or explosive shot, you lose so much on single target damage, and even it's like not worth to ever pick those talents at all. And same goes for barrage actually, and I think lethal shots is never taken at all because it's like lethal shots is actually like a cheap version of double tap because like if you do the math a bit, it gives you like 1 extra double tap per minute, and it's just, 1 extra rapid fire per minute, and it's the same as double tap. But double tap you can control, and you can choose which ability you use it on, and so lethal shots is just a poor version of double tap. So yeah, like barrage, volley, and explosive shot, they might. Barrage might be good for Mythic Plus, but the dungeons are designed in such a way that you would just, if you would just use barrage once, you would pull half the dungeon. In Legion, there was a bit more control that you could like stand behind the mobs, but if you would go to like Motherload and do like, oh, I skip this pack, and then you have no way of using barrage if you skip a pack, and then the talent is completely gone because you can't use it. And yeah, like those talents might be good in a pure AoE situation, but raids is never pure AoE. And Mythic Plus single target is almost as important as AoE,
right?
In some sense. So like those talents will never ever be picked because the talents they compete with are just too good to pass on, especially careful aim, because careful aim gives some execute damage, and execute damage is always always good.
I'll bring the talent calculator one more time just to bring this up before we move on. It's interesting looking at talents now in the game because everyone sort of gets to this point that you usually have your AoE talent tiers, your single target talent tiers, right? And for the most part, you have that as marksmanship. But why is a AoE cooldown in the same row as a AoE passive in the same row as your reverse execute? And yes, I know the reverse execute can kind of be utilized in AoE situations a little bit, but at the same time, then you have lethal shots down here, which is obviously an AoE passive to give you your single target or AoE rotation. And then you have just another AoE cooldown, and then you have essentially another AoE-ish cooldown and double tap. So I wonder if Blizzard split these apart to not make you have an AoE and a single target row specifically so that you can kind of cross the streams to have a little bit more AoE or more single target, thinking that there was like a problem within the base of the spec, knowing that there was maybe a pitfall that you needed to fill out. But that's the weird part about the talent rows here for
Honestly, that is one of the things that, and we've done, like the write-ups on Reddit and stuff like that, like saying, with the state of Marksman Hunter and stuff like that, and that is one of the arguments that, if you would just literally just swap a couple of the talents around,
Sure.
Marksman would be very good in AoE, Mythic Plus, whatever.
Hmm.
But because of the way they have the talents, it's very single target oriented, right? And all
Right.
of the AoE talents that they do have are either very undertuned and you don't use them in single target, like Barrage or Explosive Shot, or they're RNG, and most of the RNG talents are fine in sustained AoE, but let's be real, there are no things in WoW that are actually sustained mass AoE, right? Like they're always, waves of stuff, or Mythic Plus, you have a mob for, 30, 40 seconds, or like it's never sustained, right? So talents like the current lethal shots or volley, for example, that stuff that's an RPPM, well, if it procs, it's amazing. It does damage, but if it doesn't proc when you need it to, you have, 20 mobs during reaping and you never get a volley proc or never get a lethal shots proc, well, it's like, well, this talent's shit. Why am I taking it?
Right.
Whereas you have double tap, which you can always save, you always have it on demand. Double tap also pairs really well with careful aim because you can double tap your aim shots inside that careful aim window, and it synergizes really well as opposed to, the other talents are very hit or miss.
Yeah, there are a lot of good couplings of talents here, but I think they forcibly made certain picks work really well together, which then devalues other potentials you have there. Numbers aside, but that seems kind of like the way that Marksman would play, almost in a way that you'd have sort of these extra cooldowns to weave in as the base of the class to Legolas your way to victory, I guess. So we'll see. 8.2 is bringing changes, at least with the Heart of Azeroth. I don't think we're getting any crazy talent and class changes, but PTR soon. So we'll see. And I wanted to end cap this with all 300 specs. If you had to divide them into a role which they best fit into based on their strengths, where do you think you would? I use on the Mage show, we talked about if you made them like a box of cereal. I don't know what you want to make the Hunter specs here. But Ghost, you kind of summarized it a little bit earlier, so I'll go back to you on this one. What do you think? Where do you slot in the 3 different Hunter specs as they currently are now, based on their strengths against each other?
I would say Marksmanship is a really good raid spec. It's very reliable and it will almost always does what it needs to do. So it's a very reliable raid spec. Same for BM. At the moment, they're like almost on par with each other, and they can dish out almost the same damage. I would just say MM is a bit better for raids because its damage is in better places. While survival, on the other hand, is a complete different story. Survival is like, it's not unique. It doesn't do anything niche. It doesn't do anything unique. It was pretty good before their last nerf. They had like their one of their traits which made their single turret ridiculously high, and you would say maybe survival would be like, oh yeah, we need single target damage. We would bring survival for this fight because we need high single target damage. But then they nerfed the trait with a ridiculous amount, and now survival is like, it doesn't do ridiculously high single target damage, doesn't do any AoE, doesn't do any spread damage, doesn't bring any buffs to the raid, doesn't bring any execute or like meaningful execute, doesn't do anything unique or good. So I would just say like, play survival if you're good at it, but don't play it if you want to bring something for your raids. And meanwhile, MM can do amazing things in a raids and amazing priority damage, and BM can do the same. BM can also be like your one spec that does all the dirty jobs for in the raid or something. Like you could say, oh yeah, on Jaina Mythic, oh yeah, we assigned the BM for the catapults, for every annoying job that nobody wants to do. You can just assign the BM hunter, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And also BM brings crazy sustain and defensive, so it's a really good high-end spec, which is very, which it keeps itself alive, you know.
Yeah, I would say to piggyback off that, Marksman is definitely the better raid spec. BM is viable in raid. BM is the go-to Mythic Plus spec. Marksman is viable in Mythic Plus. Survival sort of sucks at both, but Survival is the PvP spec. That's sort of like
Yes.
Survival is really the only viable PvP spec at the moment.
There it is. Okay. And then I needed to quell something that I thought was really funny in the guild. It's actually funny you brought up like the Marksman versus BM overarching back and forth here. Both of the hunters in my main raid were both going Marksman and were for like Mechatorque and a Stormwall, but now with an extra farm and some Azeroth trait moving around, they actually both went BM, I think, for Jaina, because they didn't want to do the jobs as Marksmanship, so they both went BM. But I wanted to get this little silly thing out of the way here when we had them rating as Marksman. The opener and how you guys sort of figured out and parsed out the proper way to open and the rotation, sort of specifics in there. We had a 20-second pull timer. I don't know. What's that about? Talk to me about the 20-second pull timer.
It's because of double tap. Double tap it makes our first aim shot, or just aim shot or rapid fire, whichever one we cast first. And the opener we use aim shot. It just casts it twice, right?
Sure.
And double tap lasts 15 seconds, like the buff. So we hit double tap, and we have 15 seconds to cast an aim shot or a rapid fire. And so basically the idea behind that is we cast double tap, ideally 10 to 15 seconds before the pull starts, so that during the fight, we get that cooldown back at 45 seconds into the fight or 50 seconds into the fight, as opposed to a minute into the fight. And so it's a very min-maxy thing, but it allows you to potentially get another double tap at the end of the fight, if that makes sense.
All right. No, that makes total sense. And then how that works into 8.1.5 right now, what's your opener sort of priority here? I know we have it written up on the Wellhead guide, but that doesn't always lay out the little things that you guys have worked out and how it feels when you're playing Marksman. And is any of that impacted by Azeroth either? Anything you need to have to make the rotation and the opener and all this kind of stuff all work together and congeal?
The opener is pretty much always going to be the same. It changes a little bit based on if you have like Lust or Gale Callers or something. And basically you just get an additional aim shot in, or you might have to steady shot at the very end because you don't have enough focus. But generally the opener, and even just every Trueshot, is always going to look basically the same, right? Because before every Trueshot mid-fight, you should always be getting close to full focus, right? Like above 80 to 90 focus, right? So the Trueshot should always look basically like your opener. The only difference you have to think about really is if you have in the rhythm traits, which you should, because they are one of our best traits. You want to be maintaining that in the rhythm buff, which is via rapid fire, which if you're doing the correct Trueshot rotation, you sort of do it naturally anyway. But that is something to be cognizant about, is maintaining that buff.
Okay. Yeah, when rapid fire finishes fully channeling, your haste is increased by a rather large amount for 8 seconds. So it's Furious Gaze for Havoc. That's my second spec in class that I play. So it's similar to that then. Okay.
Yeah.
And I do see we do have the Azeroth trait stacks here worked out. And it looks like a pretty big jump. Pretty big jump from In the Rhythm to Unerring Vision. Everything else is pretty close together, though.
Yeah, we have a lot of traits that synergize with each other. And it also makes In the Rhythm better, you could say.
Sure.
Because we have surging shots, which makes our aim shot have a greater chance to reset the cooldown on rapid fire, which boosts in the rhythm. So we have like all these traits, even focused fire, which increases our focus region, which also makes in the rhythm better, because like all those traits together makes rapid fire very desirable ability to use on cooldown.
Right.
And yeah, all these traits in the rhythm itself is very good, but we actually want almost one of every trait almost.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. Is there a hierarchy? Do you stack triple in the rhythm and then you want 1 point wonders for your other traits? Because you can obviously have essentially 6 major traits right now.
That that it sort of really depends on. I mean, obviously, I'm going to tell everyone to send themselves, right? Because it's a little different for everyone. But
Right.
basically, you know, our 2 best traits we have in the rhythm and unerring vision, right? And so unerring vision gives crit, and the rhythm gives haste, right? And so how many of each of these sort of depends on your passive crit and passive haste. And so if your gear naturally gives you a shit ton of haste, 3 times in the rhythm, obviously because of diminishing returns, is probably not going to be the best setup for you. Whereas if you have a shitload of crit, maybe you only need 1 or 2 unerring vision, right? And so it sort of fluctuates. Like the average best setup is 2 unerring vision, 2 in the rhythm, 1 focus fire, 1 surging, but that fluctuates depending on your crit and haste, right? So for you, the best might be 3 and 3 in the rhythm, or 1 unerring vision, or something like that, you know?
Okay. So that has some wiggle room there. All right. I like to hear that because there are certain Azeroth combinations we've heard about where there are very huge differences between traits, and this is sort of the back and forth on why Blizzard made so dang many of these things, but it's good to know that at least, I mean, it all seems to be very pigeonholed into the changes they've done with Trueshot calling the shots, and then of course, it's funny to hear that haste is good when it's part of this part of the spec, but overall, not really. But now it is again. Silly secondary stat story that has followed this spec around for a very long time, it seems. But I think that's all we got for the first half of the show. Do you guys have anything else you want to wrap up on any of that? I want to get time to get some viewer questions weaved in here, because I'm sure we'll have some good ones that will not involve drawers. But if we're all good, I'm going to let these guys walk away for just a moment, and I have a few things I'm going to blabble about real quick, of course. I am wearing the Azerite Days shirt today. This is by Fabelina, inspired by the Gorilla's Demon Days shirt. So, of course, if you want to support the show, the stream, everything in between in a more physical sense, and that is over on the apparel store through Design by Humans. There are text and textless, and then unisex and ladies versions of the shirt, because it has to be resized based on the shirt parameters there. But very awesome shirt, as well as a lot of other apparel that we have put together there from a lot of other artists in our community. And of course, if you living under a rock and haven't heard this about the show yet, after all the years running and all the episodes that I have and the hundreds and hundreds of hours of doing this, I'm very picky about this, but the show is now very sponsored and partnered up with Corsair. Links are down below. So if you're looking to invest any bits and bobs and pieces and parts for an upcoming build, you can do so and support the show. Cases, fans, keyboards, mice, they have chairs now. I recently found this out that Corsair actually has their own chairs, which is ridiculous. I'll be putting together a huge new build, actually, with a whole lot of Corsair guts, and I'll be upgrading to the 2 PC setup finally after doing this crazy internet job for over 7 years, or just about. But you can do that. Links are down below, as well as Elgato, which is part of the Corsair family. And Elgato has a whole bunch of extra bits and bobs as well. I will be setting up my crazy stream deck and soundboard, everything with their help. And I've learned a bit more about this whole setup when I went to PAX recently and streamed from their awesome Corsair One and Elgato setup. But that's all down below. Links are in the description box. if you want to support what I do here and get some gear along the way, if you're looking at getting new RAM or headset, like right there, then I was waiting for this. The PC I'm using right now to stream and make this show for the last many years is almost all Corsair as well anyway. So it was a huge, awesome moment to work with them and sign up with them and get all that done. And it's exciting. So we only shill Boss TV so hard, but when the companies that you're shilling are that good, then is it really shilling, or is it just being excited to work with a big partner? But the information is all down below. Thank you very much for those that have supported the show and stream in those ways. It goes a long way, actually. If you want my dumb face on like a mouse or a keyboard packaging like Bajira has, that's up to you guys. I'm nowhere near as handsome, but it could be a good juxtaposition. You never know. They'll put me on like really weird colored RAM. I don't know. Stream Deck is love. Stream Deck. I will definitely agree with that one for sure. 100%. But all the relevant links are down below the stream here on Twitch, or of course in the video description box on YouTube. Or if you're listening to this audio only, the show does go up on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play Music. The audio only stuff obviously is just that. So you have to come over to the website, FinalBoss.tv, or right here on Twitch or on YouTube. All the information is right there. So, to pet or not to pet? A moment ago, though. Oh, wait. Is that a different cat, Moofz? Oh, wait.
Oh, no. This is my dog.
That's a dog. I just looked up and saw fur. Oh, yep. Okay. See, but now your lone wolf buff is off.
I'm a Beastmastery Hunter, IRL.
Oh, okay. Is that... All right. I like it. I like that. But I want to weave together some chat Q&A and the new FAQ section of the show and whatever discussion that we do bring up here for Marksman Hunter. And I'll start us off. If you guys have questions, of course, drop it in chat, and we'll weave that into what Ghost and Moofz can answer. But how about when do you? So this is the hook that I actually had there. When do you actually use a pet as Marksman, or do you usually always try not to? And if you have to use a pet, which ones do you recommend that hunters have on hand to be utilized? So it moves because you have your IRL pet at the ready.
Honestly, you hardly ever. Obviously, if you're questing and you need something to, to take, you really only need it if you absolutely need the utility.
Okay.
Like even in Mythic Plus, like obviously you're able to lust as a Marksman Hunter. You whip out your ferocity pet and you can lust. The damage you lose just from lusting, right? Now if it's opportune times, like there are some bosses like where you don't deal any damage for 20 seconds, you're able to dismiss your pet and stuff like that. But just the fact that you have to whip out your pet and you lose that 10% damage, right? So you're losing a little damage. You do have the pet to make up for it, so it's a slight loss, but you have the lust. And then afterwards, sometimes you go straight into mobs, right? So you have to sit there, dismiss your pet, wait the 20 seconds for Lone Wolf to ramp up, and you're losing a lot of damage. And then it's obviously just a pain in the ass to sit there and dismiss summon pet back and forth every time you need lust, right? And so we have drums, right, which is 5% less haste. That 5% less haste is basically not worth the 5% more haste, rather, is not worth the hassle and the damage loss that you get from whipping out a pet. So in raid, obviously you're never going to lust, right, because you have mages and stuff. I think the only time in raid that you ever use a pet is if you really need the survival. I think Ghost, for example, on his first Mechatort kill, whipped out his pet at the final phase, right? Because it was prog and you got a little bit of extra leech, right? Survival. Yeah. And so you lose a little bit of damage, but you have that survivability. And so it's really only if you absolutely need that utility. And so it's very niche, hardly ever use it, but it's there, right?
Yeah, like you would gain 10% extra leech, which is actually a big amount, especially for during a raid. And on our progress skill, in the last phase of Mechatorque Mythic, it's actually quite intensive on healing department. So I would whip out my pet, and it would give me 10% extra leech, which is really big, especially in the execute phase with my Trueshot and stuff. I would like, whenever I would crit on my aim shot, I would instantly go up like 20% HP. And for like only very niche situations where you would need extra healing in raids, you would whip out a pet. I would also do it on Gohun Mythic in the last phase, because
Okay,
Gohun
yeah.
Mythic was like a somewhat enraged. Like you would just, the boss would just be too hard because there would be too much healing, but with the extra pets, the healers could focus on other people.
Mhm.
So I could stay alive somewhat longer. But in no other situations you would ever whip out a pet. It's only like in very niche situations where you would need a extra bit of survivability in raids. But outside of that, in raids you would never ever get a pet.
So
Yeah.
but this is the follow-up question to that one is that, so Ghost, to go back to you, because I got to put you on the spot because you have people in chat that are going to make fun of you if you don't answer this correctly. Which pets and their all fanciness do you actually have at the ready?
I have there are 3 families of pets: tenacity, ferocity, and cunning. I have a spirit beast for whenever I play BM for Mythic Plus, but for every family, I have a pet that can also dispel. So my pet choice is very boring. So I have like one cunning pet that can dispel. I'm not sure. I think it's a bird, but I'm not sure which bird.
Terrible.
And yeah, and then I have a bat or for ferocity that can leech and can dispel, and then for tenacity, it's I'm not sure which pet. I honestly, I'm a very boring person. I also don't transmog. My pet choice is very terrible.
I saw your armory.
Yeah. It's nothing. Yeah, it's not good.
It's terrible.
It's all right. I'm a pretty boring hunter too. For Haiti, so I don't know if you know this, but the Haiti just came out, obviously, and instead of making one Haiti and able to change it, we have 6 different Hades, and you have to tame them separately. And so yeah, so we have 6 different Hades, and they all have a different appearance, right? So they're classified as like a different spirit beast, each one of them. And instead of giving each one a cool name, I just named mine Boarshot, Titan Strike. Just what the appearance looks like, because
yeah,
I still didn't do that quest, so yeah.
Awful. So how about, oh no, yeah, a question about auto chess in Dota. Oh no.
Yeah, I've been playing it somewhat. It's very addicting.
Yeah.
It's honestly just relaxing. You can easily do something else while playing it, and yeah. I'm not a high rank. I'm very low rank. I'm not pawn. I'm not pawn. I'm
Nice.
above pawn. Yeah, but I'm not high.
So I gotta look back at this one, back at traits here. Does Marksman have any traits that specifically help AoE compared to BM? Because I know you brought that up earlier that BM has just.
Are you talking about Fireshar's question about the best BM trait versus the worst marksman trait?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I think what he's referring to is rapid reload. And so we actually just sort of discovered it semi-recently.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess it happened when they buffed rapid reload by like 100% in 8.1.5. But before then, rapid reload was an absolute garbage trait. Like no one even thought twice about it because it only worked in AoE, right? So your single target, it's literally like you don't have a trait equipped. You have to hit 3 or more targets for this to even apply with multi-shot. And it's a crossover between Marksman and BM, so both specs can use this trait.
Okay.
What we figured out was that for BM, and so if you read the tooltip, it does extra damage on multi-shot, right? And it reduces the cooldown of all of your aspects. Well, Marksman has, aspect of the turtle, aspect of the cheetah, right? Well, BM also has aspect of the wild, which is our main cooldown. And I don't know if it's intended or not, but it also reduces aspect of the wild. And aspect of the wild by itself isn't that great of a cooldown, but we also have another Azeroth trait called Primal Instincts. And Primal Instincts, every time you cast aspect of the wild, you get like 1,000 mastery, right? And
Just a
so
little
if
bit.
you and so if you stack so in Mythic Plus specifically, if you stack Primal Instincts, right, you have 3,000 mastery more or less every time you hit aspect of the wild, right? And multi-shot, if you have a rapid reload trait, reduces the cooldown of all of your aspects. So what the tooltip doesn't say is that it reduces the cooldown of all of your aspects per target hit, not just per multi-shot, per target hit. And so reaping, you're hitting 20 targets, right? You're reducing your aspect of the wild 20 seconds every time you throw out a multi-shot. And so it's to the point where you can literally overlap aspect of the wilds. And so that, obviously you're getting 3,000 mastery and it's a 2-minute cooldown. By the time reaping is done, you have another aspect of the wild open or ready to use.
That seems kind of good.
It's very good, right? So for BM, it's amazing. Marksman doesn't have any aspects, right? If Trueshot was called aspect of Trueshot or whatever, it would be amazing for Marksman too. But
Right.
So Marksman doesn't have that same effect, and I don't know whether it's just because they classified it as an aspect or what. But yeah, so it's amazing for BM and Mythic Plus, which is why BM is so much better than Marksman at the moment.
Dang. How about a hierarchy of weapon enchants or rest in peace scopes for Marksman? Is this part of the sim yourself based on your Azeroth traits and your stat weights and which one might be better, which proc you want on your bow or your gun? Or is there a put this on and never change it? Ghost, what you got?
It's mostly just the mastery enchant that gives you mastery. Because marksmanship just lost mastery. It increases all your damage, and it's just very simple. You could, for Mythic Plus, get a haste enchant, maybe, because in AoE, in some situations, marksmanship is kind of locked down by its haste, and it would be beneficial for you. But it's just better in almost every case to just get a mastery enchant, because it increases all your damage, and mastery is just amazing for MM. So yeah.
Okay. Isn't there another weapon enchant that actually is a scope or something? I heard people, or no, it's the gun that has the proc that is like an old one. Is that the
Megatorp gun.
Yeah.
They buffed the effects, I think, like dispatch, but like before the buff, the gun was actually awful. It did way less damage on single target, and on AoE it was so much behind that you would like never use it. But they actually made the buff so good for single targets that you would use it for single target, but you would never use it for Mythic Plus, because proc is only affects one target, so you would never use it for Mythic Plus, obviously.
Okay.
But for a single target fight like Megatorp or like maybe even Jaina, you would just use the gun.
Okay. I thought I was trying to look up on the monitor to see is there anything about that. Oh gosh, people bringing up ammunitions in chat. Oh no.
Yeah, the Incendiary was actually like almost the best enchant for both BM and MM, but because it's just damage proc, it obviously doesn't scale, so it was really good in Uldir. But
sure,
yeah, like as the expansion goes on, like people get more, like people will start to scale more and more with secondary stats, so the proc will just fall out of favor because it will just do the same damage even if you get stronger.
Okay.
So we don't use it anymore.
Right. Interesting. So how about this one? I got to vet this question real quick because you guys can bring up questions if you see them too, because I have a few more. But Calf's question, is it worth it to delay rapid fire when Trueshot is coming up so you can cast it right before Trueshot, so you go into Trueshot with a relatively fresh in the rhythm buff? So this is about pacing of abilities, I suppose.
You generally never want to delay rapid fire. I think if it's like a second, maybe 2 seconds, you can delay it to get that in the rhythm buff, but you generally never want to. And that's just because of a number of things, right? Like you have rapid fire is a 20-second cooldown, right? And so if you're delaying it 3 seconds every time you cast True Shot, you're probably going to miss a cast of rapid fire over the course of a raid fight, right? Whereas, so when you cast True Shot, you automatically get the reduction, right? So rapid fire automatically becomes a 6-second cooldown when you cast True Shot, right? And so if you don't cast rapid fire right before, which is an ideal situation. So say you don't have that in the rhythm buff, or it's about to expire, you cast True Shot and you cast your first aim shot. Well, rapid fire is probably going to be available right then, right? And so that's sort of what I was talking about earlier when we were talking about opener and rotation and stuff like that. Is yes, ideally you want to go in to True Shot with that in the rhythm buff, right? So the ideal setup is rapid fire, True Shot, aim shot, etc. You have that in the rhythm buff. You refresh your in the rhythm halfway through, etc., etc. Well, you never want to delay rapid fire. You never want to delay True Shot, and so you're obviously not always going to have them timed perfectly, right? And so what ends up happening is that more or less you're always going to have 5 total aim shots and 2 rapid fires within your True Shot window, right? And so ideally, it'll look like 3 aim shots, rapid fire, 2 aim shots, rapid fire, right? Well, if you don't have that in the rhythm buff starting out, it might look like aim shot, rapid fire, 3 aim shots, rapid fire, aim shot, and so you just shift your rapid fire up to get that in the rhythm buff quicker versus holding it and losing out potential rapid fire casts, if that makes sense.
Yeah, those are little things that a guide can tell you, but it's a feels crafty kind of thing. So it's good to hear about that little bit. And that's one thing that I think that comes up. I think Preach, Mike, has talked about this before in a couple of his videos, where there are very clear instructions that the community puts out there that are organized through APLs and through guides and through priority lists and things. But at the same time, there are these moment-to-moment bits, Ghost brought it up earlier, about how you pre-plan. So it's not always something they can just write out for you. So that's good to know. How about, let's take a trip into the past. And this is a little bit less, unless, Ghost has read about previous Hunter spells and interactions and things here. And Moofz might have a little bit more of a story on this one. So I'll go to you first on that. What one Hunter spell or ability would you like to have back in the game for marksmanship if you could have it right now?
Can I start?
Ghost, go for it.
Yeah. Sidewinders. I think Sidewinders was like it's not to make it baseline, but just to have it as an option. Like whenever a fight would come up, which would introduce spread out targets, and just a spread out fight, and Sidewinder just gives a nice option to do that. They took it away, and now we really don't have any option at all. Like, I know a lot of people in chat are now saying, "Oh yeah, there's amazing spells we want back," but like Sidewinders was just such a nice option just to have, even if it was not needed. Was just a nice option to have, just in case the situation would ever come up. And just now, like the new raid that will come, we will have no option at all. We will have to single target on a fight with like 3 spread out targets, and we won't be able to do anything at all. And Sidewinders would be a nice option for that fight. And what it actually also introduced a nice playstyle. it's introduced downtime, but the downtime could create for like interesting min-maxy situations where you could like delay a certain mechanic for a certain ability or like a talent, and it would be nice for min-maxy situations too. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Chat's bringing up a couple of different things that's funny about kill command, kill shot, trank shot. I don't know why they took your trank shot away.
Trank shot would be amazing for Mythic Plus. Aspect of the Fox would be a godsend.
No, gosh, no, please stop. No! No, none of that. None of that at all. But I thought that was interesting.
Battle res? Oof. Battle res for pets? I don't know why they took that away.
Well, they didn't want you to have both Lust and Battle Res. That was their citing during the BFA beta cycle. So, but I thought if they gave you, they let you keep your offensive pet utility in Lust, but then why wouldn't they give you your defensive utility in Trank Shot? Because you had it, because they gave back Soothe Beast or Soothe Enrage or whatever for Druids. So why did they take away from Hunters? Why'd you guys lose?
Well, they gave us Survival of the Fittest, right? Which is, when we have Lone Wolf, we get Survival of the Fittest. But
yeah,
they basically just took off, all of the pet utility, Soothe, Purge. I don't know what else do you.
Yep.
Spearman, like BM has Spearman and stuff. So yeah,
I think this
kill shot's another good one.
Yep.
Well, actually, in BFA beta, I think like 1 or 2 builds, Hunter as a whole had Trank Shot, but then they removed it for the pet dispel. I don't know why they did that, but yeah, it was such a nice option to have.
Right. Oh yeah. So chat brought up again too. Your Trank is on your pets, but that's a purge of a magic effect. That's not a soothe.
No, it's both. Yeah.
Oh, it is. It's both. Okay. Well, that again, BM and survival can use that all the time, no problem. But Marksman has the lone wolf conundrum, which we already talked about before the break. So that's kind of the side issue there. Yep. Yeah, it's both. It's okay. Yeah, he's Azeroth watching this stream. Some vacation. Yeah, true. He's tuning in to make sure you guys aren't saying anything wrong. Oof. No, we opened the show with him. We can't talk about it anymore. Get out of here. So, how about this? Is the weird one. Hunters are essentially a caster, right? Outside of survival now. Do you think that hunters, BM and Marksman, should actually have auto attacks, barring reworking stuff that actually is us proximal auto attacks? But do you think all of your abilities should just be like a caster, right? Because mages don't have an auto attack; they have to cast a fireball, right? Warlocks don't have an auto attack; they have to cast imps or cast shadow bolt. But hunters still auto attack. Thunk. Do you think you should still have auto attacks, or should all your abilities be the abilities you cast? Like other casters, or they're ranged?
I mean, we have a gun, right? So we're shooting stuff, whereas a mage has, no weapon. They're just casting. So I feel like we should still have the auto attacks. Or, I don't know. For like BM, for Marksman, I guess maybe you could just have like lone casts and just... I don't know. I guess it would make sense either way. I personally still like the auto attacks. Because Hunter class fantasy is, aside from survival, we're basically ranged melees, right? And so we still have the auto attacks and stuff like that, and we have all the mobility that melee have more or less, but it's from range, and that's sort of the fantasy that goes into it.
Right.
Like the only reason I would like for auto attacks to be removed is so I don't ninja pull, and like I've done it so many times. So like, you click on a mob and it instantly pulls, and it's just because it actually acts like auto attack like from melee, and it like the moment you click on the mob and you have like, or you are like in attack mode or whatever it's called in WoW, and it instantly pulls them up. And at least we have Feign Dead. If we didn't have Feign Dead, Hunter would be like never played at all. I don't know.
That's actually
I've
because
done that so many times.
as a melee, I get back, I'm ready to pull a boss, and I'll right click automatically, and I'll get into the combat stance, and I'm ready to go. But no, I can't imagine how many times our hunters have tab target, right clicked on Conclave or on Stormwall Blockade or Mechatork or. Oh, yeah, because your auto attack starts automatically when you right click on something, and since you're ranged, you go thunk.
Yeah, and even like our rapid fire, when we are pre-casting aim shot, and you would like queue up the next spell, like, and it would always be rapid fire.
Right.
You automatically shoot an auto attack because for some reason, the moment you press rapid fire, even though you're still pre-casting or aim shot, you would cast an auto attack. So it would happen very often this tier that would be that I was pre-casting an aim shot and I would cast rapid fire and would instantly cast an auto attack, even though it was like still 2 seconds away from the pull, and it happened so many times.
Chat's bringing a bit of the back and forth on rapid fire during the cast, switching mobs. Does your rapid fire, is it fixed 8.15? Can you actually switch mobs during rapid fire now?
It's now when you cast rapid fire, it's a debuff now. So like you would put a debuff on a mob and it would just shoot your rapid fire on the mob. And normally before this patch, you could just like choose your target and rapid fire would instantly switch target. But they changed it to a debuff and you would just channel the whole debuff till it's over. And it's not good because sometimes a mob would die in the middle of your channel, and because we have the Azeroth trait in the rhythm, you would only gain the buff whenever your rapid fire would end. But sometimes a mob dies in the middle of your channel, and we would never gain in the rhythm buff because you would only gain the buff whenever the channel would end. But because it ends in the middle of your buff, you would never in the middle of your cast, you would never gain the buff, and it's actually a terrible change because normally you could like switch target and then you would still channel.
Oh wait, so you
still gain.
You can't switch targets during it now.
Yeah, you can't switch targets anymore. Before you could.
Yeah, so before, if you were attacking target A and say it dies, you can switch to target B and your rapid fire would keep going. Now, if you're attacking target A dies and your rapid fire stops. But on the flip side, what they did change, like glass half full, I guess, if you're attacking target A, you go LOS and come back LOS, your rapid fire doesn't cancel. It keeps channeling if you go LOS or around a pillar or whatever. Whereas before, going LOS would cancel it. And so like they made good change, bad change. But like what Ghost was saying, if we're attacking target A now and it dies, we don't gain that in the rhythm buff because we only gain in the rhythm if rapid fire finishes channeling.
Okay.
And so you have to be really cognizant of mob HP in that sense.
It's not a good change in my opinion. It's terrible because in the rhythm is our best Azeroth trait and everything depends on the trait. And unlike fights, like you would like Rastekan, whenever the totems are summoned, in some situations you wouldn't even like cancel, you wouldn't even like cast rapid fire at the end of like when the totem is getting low HP, you wouldn't even channel rapid fire because you might lose out on your rapid in the rhythm buff. And it's actually quite toxic because sometimes you're not gonna cast rapid fire because you might lose out on your buff.
So that's what Azure brings up. Another counterpoint to the change is nice that you can actually rapid fire a target that's disappearing or teleporting away and still get your in the rhythm buff because it'll still keep channeling on them despite. So like when Jaina teleports away, I guess because of the debuff targeting, it still will cast even if she goes immune or goes far away or something like that. So you still get
which
in the
is
rhythm.
What I was saying about the LOS and
LOS
stuff like
thing.
That.
Yeah. So I guess a little back and forth there on that one. So super important question here, which Ghost probably can't answer this because he's a terrible hunter. So I gotta go to Ghost first on this one though. If you actually did transmog, is it bow gun, or crossbow?
It's not gun because I play with sound on, and if you play with sound on, and I think rapid fire makes an awful noise when you use a gun.
No.
Yeah, and it's like so loud, and you like shoot 20 times. It's like almost ear deafening. So I play with a bow, and the crossbow animations are terrible. Like you can't even see anything. So I just play with a bow.
Okay. Moofz, how about you?
Crossbows are awful. I hate crossbows, and I think just the transmogs just look awful for cross. I play with a bow. I think the transmogs just look a lot better than the gun ones. I don't. A lot of the guns are like really stubby or like fat and like just look. I don't know. There's a couple cool gun ones like the WAD CM appearance and stuff like that. There are a couple cool guns, but I prefer bows most of the time.
I think that the only gun in the game that I've seen more often than not is the old Karazhan one. The giant, long, like canistered,
The
black and
wolf,
gray.
whatever it's called.
Yeah, the big bad wolf gun. Yeah. That one always comes to mind. Or it's the really obnoxious looking one, the one from Vanilla World of Warcraft, the weird, crazy yellow and blue super soaker, which is just, if you're going to make yourself look like a nonsensical hunter, because that was the other question up in chat earlier. Is all gear still hunter loot?
Yes, but people don't want to trade it anymore. It's annoying.
Well, Classic WoW does come out this summer.
Mana.
Yeah, back to mana and ammo. Yeah, and pet happiness. Feeding your pet or it runs away. I'm sure you can get Yep. That'll be fun. When you get a certain pet and it doesn't have weird food requirements. It's not meat or fish or fruit or whatever. God, pet skill levels. Get out of here. So on the future then, we have Crucible of Storms coming out actually as I'm sitting here recording this. So next Tuesday, the 16th for Heroic and Normal, and then the 23rd for Mythic. Is any of the loot that is coming from the Crucible of Storms, the new like affixed, essentially they're like pseudo legendaries, any of the affixed loot coming out in Crucible of Storms looking tasty? I'll open this up with saying that the male pants look sure, but why is the health threshold on the male pants 90%, but on the leather pants for the exact same effect it's 60%?
Yeah, I don't remember. It's like you deal damage or something above 90%, right? That's what the effect is.
It's an extra damage proc above the health threshold. Below, when the proc would happen, it just heals you instead.
Right. Yeah, I think I think for pants, maybe for farm, if there's not that much damage going out, they might be good. But
Sure.
I think in general, it's gonna be pretty. I mean, 90%. It's very easy to get below 90% health, right? And so, like maybe defensively, it might be good. But pants have such a huge stat value on them.
Yep.
I don't think they're going to be very good outside of farm, but could be wrong. I don't know if we've seen them yet.
I think we have to wait and see if they actually fix that, because it's very funny when I saw that come up. But I don't know.
Is that the only male? I know we got our special gun this tier.
Right.
I think that's the only male thing out there, right? For the next.
They're the trinkets too.
Yeah, I think the trinket is really nice, but it's also very, very dangerous because it keeps doing yourself damage, and the longer it stays active, it keeps doing more and more damage. So it's active for 30 seconds, but you can cancel it whenever you want. But after, it keeps on doing more and more damage. So in the last 10 seconds, it's gonna kill you if you don't get any heals.
Hey, healer problem, not ours.
Is it going?
A healer problem.
Well, no, because this is the one thing I always ask and bring up, depending on class utility and how this trinket will be coded. And if you don't need to use it on something else, can you turtle it?
I don't know if. I
What
mean,
did?
I'm sure you probably could turtle it. Turtle works really weird. Is it a dot on you, or is it just
I don't know. This is why I bring it up. I have no idea, because that would be kind of nonsensical if you could get this huge dot's about to blit you personally, but I want to keep doing more damage. I'm going to turtle the debuff. I leave the trinket going. So I don't know if it'll reduce it or not. That's what I'm
if
curious.
it's a dot? Turtle usually doesn't work with things that are already on you,
Right.
Like if it's a dot that just keeps ramping up, then turtle probably wouldn't work. But if it's just damage that happens to you, it might work.
Yeah.
But then again, you can't attack during turtle, and
Yep.
losing that damage is I don't know if it'd be worth it. I mean, we'd have to
Okay.
sim it, but
But you'll figure it out. I just didn't know. I always bring up the counterpoint. I'm not sure. But I'm going to throw up the talent calculator here again real quick. And Moofz, if you want to walk me through, I didn't want to bring this up too much again because you guys talk about this in the Wowhead guide. You have TSL resources for this, but what is sort of the go-to build right now for the Marksmanship Hunter as it currently sits in 815? And
so talents are pretty set in stone for marksman. You're always going to go master marksman. You're pretty much always going to go careful aim. Natural mending, trailblazer, camouflage is sort of like trailblazer for like transmog runs. Natural mending is for raid generally. Camouflage is usable in Mythic Plus, so is natural mending. So generally natural mending. Hunter's Mark is the go-to for 90% of situations. Streamline is usable in Mythic Plus, but it requires a very specific gear set. So generally just Hunter's Mark in all situations. Post haste is the way to go for raid, and even in Mythic Plus. Binding Shot is usable in Mythic Plus as well. Double tap is the go-to, and then calling the shots is the go-to in the last row.
it's funny. Born to be Wild, and we'll bring this up on the Beastmaster Hunter show. And again, if you've talked about this before with how aspects are titled, Born to be Wild has a huge benefit as a DPS cooldown for BM, but no benefit. Oh, and survival, yeah, I guess, but nothing for Marksman.
It doesn't reduce aspect of the wild for BM.
Oh, it does
only
not.
Reduces,
Only Eagle then. It does say on the tooltip here, Eagle. Yeah, I just looked at that. That's still weird though. Almost
if it
feels
did
like
reduce aspect of the wild, that'd be even better for
sure.
for BM. But see, that's one of those weird, here aspect of the wild is not considered a cooldown or not considered in this aspect essence, whatever word. But then, with rapid reload, aspect of the wild is considered an aspect, right? So
yeah, it's very interesting. Poor lock and load. All the old school survival hunters. This was their passive, explosive shot, old school stuff. They keep trying to make it a thing, but nope. And then piercing shot is still super wonk. This silly thing.
I mean, piercing shots, like in essence, like in the meme build back in Legion, it was it's a good ability. It's just so undertuned right now. It's just not worth.
Yeah,
Right.
it deals almost the same damage as an empowered arcane shot, and like arcane shot is just our spender, so it's really weird that the talent is doing the same amount of damage
Yeah.
as our spender.
It's like a 30-second arcane shot or 30-second, 35 costing arcane shot as a talent.
There's this really interesting potential here to have all these different, now again, depending on how you sort through your hotkeys and button bloat or whatever, and it's numericals aside, where you could have this really cool, like, explosive shot, barrage, piercing shot, burst combination, because they're all sort of in that AoE-ish range, right? Where you could set up your piercing shot into an explosive shot and then end with a barrage channel, and that'd be kind of neat, hunter-wise, right? Just shoot this.
That was actually in Legion. That's what the meme build was. And so you would use meme build you could use it on like Baron Mathras back when you needed to like burst kill ads.
Yeah.
You could use it in Mythic Plus. But I mean, explosive shot and piercing shot were tuned a lot better back then, right? And so you just explosive shot, piercing shot, and you'd burst, I don't know, 30k, whatever the high AoE at the time was. But yeah, I mean, now you just lose so much. I mean, they're just undertuned right now. but there's
Right.
nothing wrong with either of the abilities.
That's what I was getting at. It's the weird part that there are these neat other cooldowns if Marksman is meant to be this very sort of cooldown focused or slower paced spec where you kind of revolve around these things, but numbers. Usually it comes down to numbers. It's cool to see Hunter's Mark back again, though. I don't know if you guys enjoy Hunter's Mark being back or not. I know it looks... Oh.
Honestly, the GCD fucks Hunter's Mark. Like,
Mm.
you just... If it wasn't on the GCD and you were able to swap it, like, back and forth, it would be 100 times better. But
right.
having a GCD, I think you don't even want to apply Hunter's Mark if the ad won't live for, was it like 10 or 12 seconds now, Ghost, or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, so like half the
even
time...
more, yeah.
Yeah, like half the time, like on, like the Sirens on Blockade or something like that, you don't even, or, the Raptors and Conclave, you don't even move your Hunter's Mark because it's not worth that GCD. And I think, like, the robots on Gonk is, like, the only time you actually move your Hunter's Mark. I can't think of another time that you would actually move it in Raid.
Right. It should be off the global. It's so weird that it even is. Does it have its own global? Isn't it like less than a second, or is it a second global, or is it still a...
It's just the standard GCD.
That's so wonky. That doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense. How about a little stat question to wrap us up here, I guess. Is there a mastery cap for marksmanship? For those that are listening and may not know, your mastery is sniper training, which the range of all your abilities is increased by a base of 5%, scaling up based on your actual mastery amount, and the damage of all your abilities is increased by 11%, scaling up, of course, as well. So
just keep stacking. It's amazing for us. Just increase all our damage, so no reason for it to have a cap.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how far do you stand away from your raid?
In some situations, as far away as possible. In some situations, as close as possible.
Okay.
Like, whenever a mob is about to die, you want to stay as close as possible, of course, because, spell travel and, like, our abilities have to travel. Then you actually want to be as close as possible.
Okay.
But for, like, pre-pull and, like, whenever you are about to start a fight, you want to be standing as far away as possible, because then you can, like, start casting your aim shot even sooner and stuff. Yeah.
There's also a bug right now with double tap.
Oh yeah.
Stand max range, and so if you know how double tap works, it replicates your aim shot, right? That replicated aim shot actually has a delay on when it gets fired, and for whatever reason, the replicated aim shot of double tap 100% always cleaves, whether you multi-shot or not. And so it just has trick shot like embedded in the programming. And so if you stand max range, double tap aim shot on pull, so like for Jaina, for instance, right? If you're standing max range of the boat, those ads are within your 8-yard radius or whatever trick shots is, and you double tap aimed, that second aim shot will always cleave if you're standing far enough away.
Huh.
And it's very weird. I don't know why it's programmed like that, but
it's nice to min max. I don't know.
That's I didn't know that. That's really strange.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, we have a lot of bugs. So
yeah.
You don't say.
But yeah,
well,
I mean, yeah. Honestly, the range as far as marksman goes is not as bad as it used to. I remember in Legion, healers hated me because I would just stand so far away and I would never be within healing range. Just because for vulnerable, for instance, it was actually crucial that you stood as far away as possible, right? Because you wanted to delay the application of the vulnerable window. And so you wanted to stand super far away. And then I want to say that it used to be more range. Like I remember in Legion, we got up to like 50 some odd yards. I think now we're at like 45 yards or something like that. So it's not quite as bad.
48.
Yeah, it's not quite as bad, the range that we get from the mastery, but
okay.
I think in Legion, secondary stat scaling was way higher, so that's why we got way more range on our mastery. While now in BFA, it's all about primary stat scaling, and secondary stat scaling almost stays the same. So yeah.
sort of, I mean, a lot of specs are teeter-tottering on the many secondaries are better than agility, strength, int right now. So it's sort of coming back.
Yeah, it's coming back, but
yeah,
like items are like not giving us insane amounts of
secondaries
anymore. Yeah.
But those sockets though.
Yeah, the sockets. It's a pain.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna take this, and I think we're good. Any shout outs or remarks, little soapbox time that either of you have here to sort of share some wondrous bits of wisdom by chance on the community, or anything you want to end on the show notes with? So Ghost, I'm going back to you on this one, sir. What you got?
I want to shout out, of course, Azotarian. He's a very nice dude, and he's also been a nice friend, and also, good guildie of mine. I also want to shout out my guilds, Solaris. They have been a very good group for me, and I've always enjoyed my time with them. I want to shout out my personal Weep Discord. It's kind of stupid, but I want to shout them out.
Nice.
Also, I just want to shout out just the Hunter Discord, Trueshot Lodge. They are very, very, I don't know, it's a very fun group, a very friendly group, and I always enjoy my time with them. In general, if you just enjoy Hunter, just come in Trueshot Lodge and just ask me or any of the people in there how to play or how they should play, or like just DM me. Mm-hmm. It might take a while till I answer, but I have a very busy life, and I will answer, but I will help you. So yeah.
Awesome. But you won't close your drawers.
No, I won't close my drawers. No.
Okay. Moofz, how about you, sir?
Shout out Trueshot Lodge, Jay-Z, Azor, Ghost, Cerebi. A lot of people just put a lot of effort into, the APL, and I think Ghost and Cerebi rewrite the APL daily, and they're always finding improvements and little, plus 15 DPS, little baby things to improve us, and
heck yeah,
they do a lot of work there. My fellow Pepegas at Heart in the Pain, a lot of excellent raiders and gamers there, and I actually just joined them, but they've been very welcoming and they're pretty cool. And yeah, all my my fellow Mythic Plusers and my fellow hunters and pet tamers, and yeah, so that's about it.
Sounds good to me. I like the bits. Open all the drawers, and then you have to pay more for Ghost to open all those drawers. Yeah, that sounds good. But alrighty then, I'm gonna take you home. We have a couple more things we'll talk about in the Patreon BTS after show. So of course, if you're supporting the show, there should be anything between over there. There'll be a little more of this that we'll record shortly after the show ends. I'm gonna hit this button over here that signifies the show is wrapping up, and it's right there. So thank you all very much for tuning in to episode number 185. We're getting close to 200. I don't know if we're doing anything special. I have so many more of these to do. We do have the next 4 shows. I'm roughly looking at this on the horizon here for Protection Warrior. Hopefully if they get some guests on next Sunday, because a lot of them are probably doing the MDI stuff, but because Protection Warrior has suddenly flew to the top of the charts. Prot Warrior, followed by Mistweaver Monk, Feral Druid, and then Elemental Shaman, trying to theme the specs we talk about based on how the current ecosystem and atmosphere of the game is going. So I kind of feel like those are all specs right now that are sort of on the chopping block to be discussed. So if you have any guest suggestions, hit me up on Twitter at FinalBossTV. I go over about how you get in touch with me a lot more in a previous episode of the show where I sat down with my manager, so you can go check that out. The VOD, of course, is right here, or it's over on YouTube. But around the table again, Ghosteld, you can go follow him over on Twitch, where you can see his drawers remaining open all the time. Thank you very much for your time on the show today, sir. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you for bringing me here.
And there's Moofz as well over on Twitch at Moofz. You can go check out his stream, ask him questions about stuff, tell him how bad his guide is, all that good stuff. That's what it's for, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. All the feedback.
Yeah. But thank you very much for your time on the show today. I mean, every show has its own leaps and bounds, but Hunter is an interesting one to always get on here. So I definitely appreciate you guys taking the time today. Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks for having us.
So that's it. Again, Prot Warrior, Mistweaver, Monk, Feral Druid, Elemental Shaman, the next 4 in a row. Every block of 12 basically gets one spec from each class. And we'll see how that goes from there. If you missed the show, of course, YouTube archive, Twitch archive for subs, and iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play for the audio-only version. After show on Patreon. That's it for me. I'm gonna get out of here, go record some more stuff for you guys. So, Crucible Storm is on the horizon. Let me know in the YouTube comments if you're watching this far ahead. What do you think of the raid coming up? Because it looks a little weird. Unot's probably gonna be way overtuned. But thank you very much for watching. And until next week, everybody. Bye. Wave by it, nice people. Wave, Moofz. Wave. There it is. Yo.